Hello, welcome to our channel, Aurora Veritatis. Today we will address a topic that generates a lot of doubt and even controversy. After all, do Catholics worship saints? And why do they have images in churches? Is this idolatry? Stay with me until the end of this video, because we're going to delve deep into these issues, bringing the teachings of the Catholic Church and helping you see the fundamental difference between veneration and worship. To begin with, it's important for us to understand two words that seem similar, but are quite different: idol and icon. Both refer to images, but what they represent is radically distinct. An idol in the biblical and Christian tradition is anything created, a statue, a painting, an object that takes the place of God in your heart. It is what becomes worshipped as if it were God himself. The first commandment, which you find there in the book of Exodus, already makes it clear. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image. Here the prohibition is not against any kind of image, but against images that are worshipped as gods, that is, against the idol. The word idol comes from the Greek eidolon, which means a false, illusory image that tries to replace the true God. Therefore, idolatry is so condemned in the Bible. It diverts our heart from the only source of life, which is God himself. But there is another Greek word, icon, from which the word icon comes. And an icon, for the Eastern Christian tradition and also for us Catholics, is an image that does not replace God but points to him. The icon is like a window. You look at it, but what matters is not the glass but what is beyond it. The icon directs us to the greater reality, to the mystery of God who acts in the saints, in the events, and in the history of salvation. This distinction is fundamental. When the Church condemns idolatry, it is warning us against the risk of putting any creature, any object, any person in the place of God. But it is not prohibiting the use of images as memory, as inspiration, as a means to elevate ourselves to the Creator. If you understand this, you've already taken a huge step towards understanding the veneration of saints and the use of images in the Catholic Church. Now someone might ask, but why not eliminate all images to avoid any risk of idolatry? It's a legitimate question, especially among Protestant brethren who often reject the use of images in churches. However, in practice, the problem of idolatry does not lie in external images, but in our hearts. You can destroy all the statues in the world, you can empty all the churches of any visual representation, but if your heart clings to any creature, money, power, pleasure, people, you still run the risk of idolatry. Idolatry, before being an external issue, is an internal matter. It is our attitude towards created things. Consider, for example, human relationships. When you look at someone you deeply love, your husband, your wife, your children, you might become so enchanted with that person that they become the absolute center of your life. If this happens, if you put that creature in God's place, that is idolatry. But if you look at your loved one and through them recognize the beauty of the Creator, thank God for the gift of life, love, and family, then that person becomes an icon, a window that leads you to God. The same applies to the beautiful things of creation: a flower, a sunset, a breathtaking landscape. You can become so attached to these things that you live for them, or you can use them as starting points to praise the Creator, recognizing that their beauty is a reflection of God's beauty. When we talk about religious images, the logic is exactly the same. A saint's image, a sculpture of the Virgin Mary, a painting of Jesus, they are not gods. They remind us of people and events that have manifested God's presence in the world in a special way. They are like family photographs. Nobody loves a photo in place of the person depicted, but it helps us remember, love more, and even miss them. The problem isn't in the image itself, but in the use we make of it. This understanding was deeply debated in the history of the Church, especially in the 8th century, when there was the controversy of the iconoclasts, people who wanted to destroy all religious images. The Church's response came at the Second Council of Nicaea in 787, which clearly stated, "The honor paid to the image goes to the prototype, that is, to the one who is represented, not to the object itself." Venerating an image of Mary, kissing an image of a saint, lighting a candle, placing flowers, all of this only makes sense because they are gestures of respect and affection directed towards the person portrayed and, above all, towards God's work in that person. Here it is important to make another distinction. In the Catholic Church, only God is worshipped. Only to him is the supreme worship called latria given. To the saints we offer veneration called doulia, and to the Virgin Mary a special veneration called hyperdulia, because she is the holiest of all creatures, the Mother of God. But worship in the strictest sense is for God alone. The saints are venerated because they were people who allowed God to fully act in their lives. When we venerate a saint, we are in fact praising God's action in that creature. This is clearly expressed in the Gospel of St. Luke, when Mary in the Magnificat says, "All generations will call me blessed, for the Almighty has done great things in me." Jesus himself praised people. Blessed are the poor, the meek, the pure in heart, recognizing God's work in their lives. When a Catholic kneels before an image of a saint, lights a candle, says a prayer, he is not worshiping the image, nor is he putting that person in the place of God. You are asking for the intercession of that saint with God, acknowledging that this person was an example of faith, hope, and charity. Kneeling before an image is a gesture of humility, respect, and does not mean that the image is a god. Just as when we kneel before the cross, we are not worshiping a piece of wood, but rather the sacrifice of Christ. Now, if you've made it this far and are finding this content useful, don't forget to leave your like. This way, our channel will be better promoted, and this message can reach more people who also have questions about this topic. Returning to our topic, it's worth remembering that since the early centuries of Christianity, Christians worshiped the memory of martyrs, prayed at the tombs of saints, kept relics, and made paintings to remember their lives and their examples. All of this was part of the experience of faith, helping the faithful to keep alive the memory of those who gave their lives for Christ. There is no reliable historical record that Christians have completely abandoned the use of images after the resurrection of Christ. On the contrary, the catacombs of Rome are filled with paintings depicting biblical scenes, symbols of faith, and even portraits of saints. The veneration of saints, therefore, does not divert the Christian's attention from God, but brings him closer to him. The saints are witnesses that it is possible to live the gospel in all times and situations. They are models of Christian life, and at the same time, intercessors who present our prayers to God. As the letter to the Hebrews says, we are surrounded by a cloud of witnesses who encourage us to stand firm in faith. Moreover, when we turn to the saints, we are not diminishing the unique mediation of Christ. All grace comes from God through Jesus. But just as we ask a friend for prayer, we also ask the saints, who are already in the presence of God, to intercede for us. This practice is biblical and deeply rooted in Christian tradition. In conclusion, it can be said that the use of images and the veneration of saints is not idolatry, as long as the images are used as tools to bring us closer to God. Idolatry is placing any creature in the place of God, be it a statue, a person, or anything created. The true problem of idolatry always lies in the human heart and in the intention with which we relate to the created realities. So the next time you step into a Catholic church and see images of saints, remember, they are there to remind us of God's action throughout history and to inspire us to seek holiness. The Catholic faith teaches us to look at the saints as mirrors of divine grace, not as rival gods, but as friends and intercessors who help us walk towards God. Did you enjoy this content? Subscribe to the Aurora Veritatis channel so you don't miss out on more explanations like this about the Catholic faith. And now, first want to hear from you. Have you ever had doubts about the worship of images or know someone who has questioned you about it? Tell us about it in the comments. May God bless you and see you in the next video.